All right. Good afternoon, guys. Good evening here on the East Coast. Good afternoon on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thank you so much for joining us. As you saw in the promo, the most recent promo that we have, I have a terrific guest for us. So just give me one moment while I introduce him on. One sec. So I would like to introduce the festival director of the Virginia Film Festival, Mr. Jody Kielbasa. How you doing, sir?
I'm well, Brandon. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So first and foremost, as I said, the purpose of today's show would be to just provide a reflection or a retrospective, so to speak, on this past year's festival. I've had a chance to go to Virginia Festival, many times, and as we well know, based on the landscape that we're in now, many of the events that we typically have that we kind of take for granted that we can just go to. We're not provided the opportunity to do that. We have to, in many cases, we've had to do it virtually. So with that being said, can you talk a bit about, just to start, just that initial pivot of having a an in-person show and making it a virtual one this
Oh,
past year?
sure. I mean, in the late spring, early summer, when it became increasingly clear that we could not hold an in-person festival because of COVID-19 and restrictions and regulations, both in the city and the county of Charlottesville and Albemarle County, we quickly as a team pivoted to, well, what could we do that would be safe for our community and still do what we do as an arts organization, celebrating the art of film. And, we're fortunate that a couple film festivals were able to launch virtual festivals before us, and we were able to participate in those festivals virtually online and take a look at the platforms that they used. And we settled on one that we liked called Eventive, and decided that we would move ahead to present a festival. For me personally, it's so important to have that communal aspect of watching film together. And I kept racking my brain about how I might be able to do this. And I went to a drive-in movie this summer with my family. I hadn't been since I was a kid, and I decided to take my kids and my wife. And it was an incredible experience. And they were very safe. They parked the cars about 10 feet apart. People wore masks there. The concession stands were spaced out. And I thought, well, maybe we can do this. And other festivals started to follow suit as well. And so this year we were able to present a virtual festival online with over 60 feature-length films. And then we screened another about 10 films in two different drive-in movie venues. One was an urban venue in the heart of Charlottesville, and that was very, very cool, sort of being surrounded by the cityscape as we're screening films outdoors. And the other was really out in the country at this stunning venue, Morven Farms, which is owned by the University of Virginia and is surrounded by the landscape of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And that was equally stunning in an entirely different way. And so we were able to engage about 110 vehicles at the one out on the farm and about up to 75 at the one in town. And that really brought people together, even though they were socially distanced in their cars. And I felt like we were able to pull off the festival as we've known it to an extent. One of the things the Virginia Film Festival is known for, and I think we distinguished ourselves, is the quality and level of the conversations that we have wrapped around the films. We're part of the University of Virginia. We're a program of the University of Virginia. And so we have access to a lot of faculty experts that engage with the filmmakers and the artists that we bring in. And we really wanted to have those conversations. And so we pre-recorded 42 conversations and had one live conversation during the festival. We had conversations with Annette Bening, with Linda Hamilton of Terminator fame. We had a conversation with Thomas Newman, who's been nominated for 15 Academy Awards for his scores in musicals, extraordinary film composer. A conversation with Ethan Hawke and Joshua Caleb Johnson around The Good Lord Bird, the new Showtime series. Just some remarkable conversations. Diane Rehm, who's featured in a documentary about end of life called When My Time comes was involved in a conversation. And I think these were pulled off really, really well in a fascinating way. And in fact, they are still available on our YouTube channel at virginiafilmfestival.org for anybody who wants to access them as well. So all that together kept us within the brand of what we do in a normal year. Obviously, given the circumstances with COVID-19, we couldn't have the same social engagement with our artists that we do by bringing them into Charlottesville and having them directly engage with the community. The conversations virtually were the next best step, but they were really pulled off in a really good way for our audience.
Awesome. And just to jump off of that a little further, when it comes to the festival, one capacity of it is that's great, is the networking facet of it. And there's so much that can happen in between, screenings and get-togethers and things like that, where artists are able to touch base with one another and potentially discuss about possible collaborations and all of those different things that happen like behind the scenes. So can you talk a bit about that and how doing the show this year in the way that you have done, in the way you were explaining, still providing that same feel? Because I feel in some ways it kind of gets lost in translation, because there is, in terms of doing that networking piece, so much that it can be done in person, that way of like just face-to-face interaction.
Sure. Well, if I had to be self-critical of our festival this year, it would be that it was challenging for us to actually provide that opportunity for our artists. Obviously we couldn't bring them into Charlottesville. What we could do is provide a platform, and the engagement with our audience came as a result of them being able to discuss their films virtually after we screened them. So we were able to provide that, and we did a really good job of that, I believe. But that social aspect that you get when you share a cup of coffee or a beer with somebody after the screening, and it's an audience member or it's another filmmaker, and we have parties and gatherings both for our patrons who are audience members, but also for all of our industry guests as well. We weren't able to provide that. We toyed with the idea of trying something that would be a virtual gathering, and we finally discarded that because I think we felt that it would not be organic and would feel a little forced. And so we didn't go that route. We know some other festivals that have tried that with some mixed results. I think some have been successful and some perhaps less so successful. I do think no matter what, there's a little bit of that awkwardness. And I also think that there's a little bit of Zoom fatigue out there too, where people are getting together, arts organizations, and they have happy hours and things like that. And this felt like another one that we were forcing. So we chose not to do that this year. I hope a year from now, Brandon, we're not in this situation, and I hope that for everybody out there, just as much as I do the Virginia Film Festival. My hope is that we can throw a festival that's in person, that people are back in theaters and restaurants and together. But if we throw another virtual festival, that would be an area that we would want to explore again. How could we pull that off, that we provide that engagement and social interaction, artists meeting artists, sharing ideas, setting up future collaborations? We've had a number of filmmakers that have met at the Virginia Film Festival that have gone on to collaborate on films together. So that's a very real thing that you're talking about, and something that we've been able to provide that I just don't think we could do this year effectively.
Gotcha, understood. And one thing that I would say, if there is a glass half full capacity or element of it, just with many of the, whether it's filmmakers or other folks, of how the current landscape has provided challenges, in that same respect, it's also provided opportunities, I feel, in not only just with the way that they do film, if they are a showrunner, the way that they run their show, with what you've done this year, and just like you were saying with the driving capacity, are there elements that you feel, regardless of, fingers crossed that we get to a state of normalcy, that you will still keep, regardless of whether we get to, that state, based on what you have experienced this year, going forward, that still will? take with you?
You would include. Yeah, I mean, the drive-in movie is a real possibility. It's very expensive to pull that off. It's not a moneymaker. Not that we're in this to make money, but we definitely lose money on that. However, I think it was a real benefit for the community and a very cool kind of throwback to a bygone era that people seem to really enjoy. So it's something that we might consider including in the future. I do think that the silver lining aspect, if there is such a thing during a pandemic, is we were able to get a lot of people that perhaps may not have been available to us in years past. Because, you know, if you're bringing an artist in, let's say like someone like an Annette Bening, to come to the Virginia Film Festival, it's a 3-day commitment. You have to fly from Los Angeles. That takes a day. You're there at the festival for at least a day, and then you have to fly back, and that travels another day. And for anybody, that's a big commitment out of their life. And we don't pay these artists to come in. It's really them giving back to people and to the industry, recognizing that maybe they've been fortunate in their career and they want to share that with other people. So we're very grateful to them for that. This year, it was a little less heavy lifting, right? Because the ask was, you know, would you do a Zoom call interview for an hour
in their home,
in the comfort of your home? So, you know, there's no travel issues. There's not a lot of time given up. And I'm not saying that it still wasn't a huge gift. It certainly was from every one of the artists that participated, but it's a lot less commitment and challenge for them to be able to participate. So as a result of that, we had some really phenomenal conversations with Annette Bening and Linda Hamilton and Thomas Newman and Ethan Hawke and Joshua Caleb Johnson and Diane Rehm, and just a lot of really, really incredible artists that were part of the festival this year. Pete Souza, who was President Obama's photographer for all 8 years in the White House, who's out with a documentary, The Way I See It right now, that's been featured on CNN recently. Remarkable conversation with Chris Liu, who was at the University of Virginia's Miller Center, but was President Obama's assistant deputy of Secretary of Labor. And a great conversation that they had around the Obama White House and his presidency. So, we were really fortunate, and that was part of the silver lining. And the quality, again, and I direct people to virginiafilmfestival.org and go to our YouTube channel to view these conversations. They're all up. They're all free. You can access them, and they're really remarkable. And the people that participated really gave of themselves. So it was great.
All right, awesome. And this just looking beyond, regardless of the state of where we currently are now, and as I say, going to normalcy, just with festivals in general, what's something that you see? Because I'm sure, in conversing perhaps with other festival directors of other shows and being in contact with them, what's certain trends that you're seeing currently in the industry, that you're excited about and that you find fascinating, going forward, maybe in the next 5, perhaps even further than that, 10 years, that you are seeing among yourself and also among your contemporaries as trends that are going to be, that people should be keeping an eye out for in terms of their festival going experience?
Well, I don't know if we've had a lot of talk about trends at the moment. I think that what everybody's doing is they're taking a deep breath and watching what's happening in the industry right now. There's been a tremendous disruption, as you can imagine. There's a tremendous need for content now more than ever. You have, companies that in the last couple of years have just skyrocketed, like Amazon and Hulu and Apple and Netflix, of course, and they need content. And so there's a lot of work out there potentially for actors and directors and producers and people in the industry, which is really, really, really great. This pandemic has thrown a real wrench, however, in the theaters, the movie theater industry right now. They're closed. I mean, for the most part, some are open partially, some are thinking about reopening, some opened and then shut again. And it's a very, very difficult time. And so I think a lot of the distributors in the studios, they're trying to figure out, okay, what is our path forward to create the maximum amount of revenue, because we at the moment, we don't have those big theatrical releases, and then go to a platform to be viewed. Instead, they're releasing them straight to those platforms, and they're trying to figure out, for the festival directors, it's how do we fit into the marketing plan for these distributors and these studios, as many of them still position themselves for consideration for Golden Globes and Academy Awards and SAG Awards that also help them generate more revenue for their films through more people wanting to see them. And we still provide, I think, a very important platform for so many films out there, but I think people are sort of in a wait and see kind of mode to see what happens. It will be interesting as Sundance happens this year, how that's going to be affected, and then how we go into South by Southwest that's already planning, I believe, a virtual festival again, and then what will unfold after that. So it's a different world. I think everybody's trying to adapt to it, and I don't think there's any set answers at the moment.
Gotcha. And then last but not least, before I let you go, just in general, because I'm sure there will be, folks, filmmakers, producers out there that are have, as you said, content that they are creating. Just in general, just as a director of such a remarkable festival, can you talk just briefly on what it is? Perhaps there's just some unique thing that you see in a lot of the content that you make the decision to have at your festival. What it is that you see in those particular projects that draw you forth and say, what, this would be a good fit for the show.
I don't think anything's changed with that. I think it comes down to telling a good story at the end of the day. Was the filmmaker effective and good at telling that story? Did that story captivate you? And of course, all the other elements that go into making a good film have to be there as well. But at the end of the day, it's about that story. And that holds true whether it's the subject of a documentary and is that compelling, or it's a narrative film that you want to follow all the way through and you just love because you got really engrossed in that story and you wanted to know how it turned out. And I think that, really, when you get down to it, that's really what films are doing. They're telling stories, and it's the filmmaker's vision on how to be able to tell that story and how to be able to offer it to the audience. That's so important. So, I still see films that surprise me all the time, and that's always exciting. You also see films that, sometimes where the film's going to go, but you're happy to go along for the ride because it's still fun and you kind of know how it's going to end, but it's an enjoyable experience and you want to be part of that experience. I've got to say that, the films that surprise you and you just don't see it coming, those are the films sometimes that you want more than anything for your festival. But, the festival really, I view the festival as a platform for the artists at the end of the day. We should be serving those artists as a way to reach an audience. And that's important. So it's a give and take experience, but we want to be able to provide that platform to reach that audience, to share their art with a broader community, and that's why we're here at the end of the day. So it's not so much about the festival; it's about how we can share the filmmaker stories with the general public.
Gotcha. Well, Jody, as always, thank you so much for carving out some time to chat with me and just reflecting on this year's festival. Before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Sure. Go to virginiafilmfestival.org. Again, as I mentioned, we have 43 conversations, I believe, that are recorded there that you can check out from this past year's film festival. And during the year, we also continue year-round programming. Usually once a month, we'll screen a film or a conversation with filmmakers and artists as well. We're going to take a little breather this month, having just got through the festival, but hopefully we'll be back with something in December.
All right, awesome. Sounds good. Well, there you guys have it. For those of you who are watching, thank you so much. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find us on Facebook, which you're watching now. However, you can also find us on YouTube, which we do encores of many of the episodes that we have streamed live here on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Moving Shaker UNLTD, on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited, and of course, You can find me at Brandon Troy ENT on Twitter and Brandon Troy _ENT on Instagram. Thanks again for watching. Be safe out there, everyone, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.